So I need to clarify one or two things. So anyway, when the Soviets had the plans to our long-range bomber, I think it was the B-36, and they also had the secrets to the atomic bomb, and they had sufficient fissionable uranium. Then all they had to do was figure out a way to deliver the bombs to the shores of the United States so that when we were threatened, we would have to capitulate. So here's the way it worked. They created a fleet, well not a fleet, a squadron of these bombers. And they also used a submarine with a particularly sophisticated communications system. And the way it worked was, it was a stealth system before there were stealth systems. So anyway, the B-36s, which were of course unknown to the Soviet Air Force, yet they were in fact part of the Soviet Air Force, they had no markings. And this is before transponders, really. You had radio, but you didn't have any transponders. You didn't have any repeating signals. So they take off from probably from somewhere in South America, where they were being constructed secretly, probably with the help of some German engineers. And also, uranium was, of course, probably located in Africa or someplace and transported across the South Atlantic. So anyway, you have the bombs. You have lots of bombs. They amassed as much enriched uranium as they could, and they constructed as many bombs as they could because they wanted to make they wanted to deal one fatal blow to the United States if it was required, which it turned out it wasn't required. Anyway, this fleet of unnamed and previously unknown Soviet bombers took off from somewhere in South America, flew up the coast, and anyway, began to radio Mayday when they got to approximately Cuba, somewhere in the Caribbean. And now this is picked up by American intercept sites. And so they say unknown aircraft on heading basically toward the east coast of the United States are issuing our radio and Mayday. Now we don't have much radar coverage there. We figured the Soviets would come over the pole. But anyway, so we go out to look for these aircraft. All right, the aircraft are finally located in some form or fashion, and we're suspicious because we're obviously, these are unknown aircraft, and they're on a trajectory that takes them to the east coast of the United States. So what happens is the aircraft, the bombers, have the ability to land on the water in a tranquil environment. And fortunately for them, the Caribbean was fairly tranquil at that time. No hurricanes. It was probably January 1947. So anyway, the long and short of it is that once they had landed, well, the U.S. Air Force went out looking for the aircraft, and it turns out they couldn't find them. They assumed they had crashed or ditched. Didn't see any debris. Home to mama. Okay, Then, of course, what happens is the aircraft are able to, they have additional fuel tanks, and they're able to take off from the ocean surface back into the sky, where they fly at low levels. Now they're getting close to the U.S., where we do have radar coverage. The United States does have radar coverage. All right, so we don't see them, but we get a suspicion there's something moving in our direction. So again, they issue the Mayday, and this time they give an explanation that they had landed on an island and were able to somehow repair and gain back their flight status. Well, now we see that they're big aircraft. Shit, these are bombers. So we're fucking freaked. The Air Force is, like, holy shit, what the hell's moving toward us? We get the suspicion that these are probably Soviet aircraft, previous unknown design. So these aircraft continue their path toward the United States. When they get close to Florida, they again land, and they conceal themselves sufficiently that they can lie still and remain undetected, because they blend in with the ocean. So anyway, the Air Force is scrambling jets and propeller craft and going all over the fucking place looking for these aircraft. And we're on high alert. Holy shit. So anyway, the third leg of these bombers takes them right up into the sky, right into the Miami and Miami area, Florida, all the way up possibly as far as Fort Bragg, which is of course one of our main military installations. So anyway, then they land again in the ocean. We're looking everywhere for them. This time they haven't issued a Mayday, so we don't know. We haven't got any intercepts that are able to show their location from the radio traffic, and we're mystified. We're mystified. Now, these aircraft are in segments of 3. That's 3, 3, and 3. All right, 3 have split off, and then another 3 have split off, and then the third 3 have split off. And anyway, they're landed, basically they're sort of landed along most of the East Coast. Now here, my friend, is the genius of the Soviet, tactic. One lone aircraft of the 9 takes off again. Now it has a lot of firepower. It has it has a heavily laden bomb bay filled with atomic bombs. It continues all the way up until it gets pretty close to the DC area. Then it hangs a right, and then we expect it to hang a left. Hangs a right, and then it does a loop-de-loop, and then it lands. All right, so we're looking for lots of aircraft, several aircraft, a squadron aircraft, and we don't know where the hell they are. All right, at this point, the Soviet ambassador, with previous instructions already in place, goes to the White House and says, "I need to see the president." This is President Eisenhower. And he says, "I need to see the president." Well, no, strike that. This is President Truman. Anyway, the president in 1947. And he goes into the White House. Now, the thing is, he has in his possession a cyanide pill. The reason he has it is because he expects the Americans to be so irate at this attempt at nuclear blackmail, that they will torture him. So he wants to well, ease his pain. So he goes in the White House. He tells the president, he says, we have placed strategic bombers with extremely efficient atomic bombs aboard along your East Coast. We will detonate those bombs in a pre-established way unless you relinquish control of your military and surrender. And so the president is going like, oh shit. You know, the Soviets are demanding, and he says, now if you don't do this, we will detonate the bombs. It will extremely damage your East Coast, your infrastructure. It will demoralize your people. You'll have chaos, civil war, and your country will go down the tubes. We don't want to see your country go down the tubes. We want your country to be intact. We want to continue to function, because we believe we can harmonize us and you in such a way as to be to our advantage. Now, the thing is, the eugenics project is in the backdrop. The Americans know nothing about this. This is the real aim of the Soviet surprise attack, let's say. So, anyway, the Americans, of course, let's say it's Truman. I don't know. It might be probably Truman. All right, Truman. He says, "Well, I'm from Missouri. You got to show me. I got to get proof that this is a real fact." So the Soviet ambassador offers this. He says, "Bring a team of experts, whatever ones you choose. We will guarantee their safety, but they will be interned for the duration of this event, and we will take them to a waiting ship, and you will not follow the aircraft, and will you not attempt to interfere with the inspection of this team of experts." Well, this is done, and then, of course, the team of experts, sees the data, looks at, say, one of the aircraft as it bobs on the ocean, and they look at the atomic weaponry, and they realize this is a real threat. Anyway, so rather than use radio communications, one of the team is dispatched back to the United States with the message that the Soviets have, in fact, developed a system of attack that puts the U.S. in dire straits. Now remember, supposedly these experts were not to be returned. They were being interned. The reason is because the Soviets felt that the United States would attempt to extort or somehow find out from the expert, if they were returned, where and how these planes are situated. Well, what happens is, dramatic is to be an understatement. The expert is accompanied by a Soviet officer, and now he's immune to U.S. inspection because by virtue of the fact that the Soviets demand that he not be interfered with. Anyway, the Soviet officer and the expert return to the White House, and they meet a representative from the president, and the U.S. expert reports that Soviets have in fact developed a insurmountable weapon, and so therefore, at that point, the Soviet officer takes out a gun and kills